Star of 90 Day Fiancé David embarks on a new phase of his life by expelling Annie from the residence. David, the prominent figure of the renowned reality series 90 Day Fiancé, has entered into matrimony again. As he commences a new chapter in his life, he makes a significant decision. He expels his wife, Annie, from their residence. David explicitly informs Annie, "The child you are bearing is not mine. I cannot assume responsibility for an illegitimate offspring. You no longer have a role in my life." Annie was profoundly affected by this remark. David stated that he would commence a new life with his new bride and wished to discontinue any association with his old relationship. David's conduct has astonished his admirers and audience. Numerous individuals are expressing sympathy for Annie on social media while questioning the fairness of David's actions. David Toborowski, previously renowned for his eccentric charisma and profound commitment to his wife Annie Sowen on 90 Day Fiancé, has undergone a troubling and unforeseen transformation. Fans who observe the pair navigate cultural disparities, economic difficulties, and familial conflicts are now reeling from an unforeseen scandal. The situation commenced with murmurs, speculations that David had been observed in the company of another woman. Initially, fans disregarded it. Ultimately, David and Annie seemed to be one of the most stable couples in the 90 Day franchise. However, a shocking revelation emerged. David had entered into a new marriage. Moreover, he allegedly expelled Annie from the residence they previously occupied together. Insiders disclosed that Annie was 4 months pregnant when David made his unexpected decision. David allegedly exclaimed after a heated altercation, "The child you are carrying is not mine," as recounted by a friend of Annie. "I will not assume responsibility for an illegitimate child. Your presence is no longer warranted in my life. I am progressing forward." Neighbors assert that Annie exited the residence in distress, grasping a little bag and attempting to contact her sister via phone. "She possessed no destination. She was devastated," remarked a witness. She never anticipated that David would betray her in such a manner, particularly during a time of her greatest need. As David showcased his new bride, an American entrepreneur called Melissa, whom he purportedly encountered at a business conference, social media reacted fervently. Longtime enthusiasts of the show inundated Twitter and Instagram with endorsements for Annie. Annie devoted everything to David: her affection, her fidelity, her family's confidence. One user articulated, "He cast her aside as if she were insignificant." Some conjectured that David's behavior might have been swayed by Melissa, who is reportedly urging him to begin anew and sever all connections to his past, including Annie and her unborn child. However, not all individuals were prompt to form judgments. A minority of defenders contended that the narrative might be more complex. "It is uncertain whether the infant is his," remarked a follower. "Let us refrain from making hasty conclusions." The emotional harm had already been inflicted. Annie has been observed residing with a friend in Houston, and sources indicate she is contemplating legal action. A family friend added, "She is devastated. However, she is also resilient." Annie is resolute in her commitment to raise her child with dignity, even if she is do so independently. What about David? He maintains silence. No declarations. There are no apologies. A few Instagram photographs depict him beaming with Melissa at a beach resort in Cancun, his wedding band shimmering in the sunlight. This is hardly the fairy tale that fans were assured. This is the pinnacle of heartbreak, treachery, and drama. As Annie confronts her most challenging chapter to yet, it becomes evident that her authentic love story may be merely commencing. David Toborowski never anticipated that he would experience love anew, particularly with someone half his age, hailing from the opposite side of the globe. Following 2 unsuccessful marriages and a profession at its nadir, he believed his romantic prospects were irrevocably diminished. That transformation occurred upon his encounter with Annie Sowen in Thailand. Annie, at 24, was exuberant and vivacious, possessing a laugh that could illuminate any space. David, at 49, was experienced by life's adversities, encumbered by debt, and laden with remorse. In theory, they were incompatible. However, in reality, their chemistry was indisputable. From their initial conversation, Annie made David feel acknowledged, genuinely acknowledged. She was indifferent to his history, age, or receding hairline. She cherished his narratives, his whimsical humor, and his consistent generosity in offering her his final morsel of food. As David danced at Thai festivals with clumsy movements and a silly smile, Annie refrained from mocking him. She joined him in the dance. Upon relocating to the United States, they encountered numerous challenges. Friends and family evaluated them. Unknown individuals murmured in dining establishments. She is exploiting him, some argued. He is an unsettling elderly man, others whispered. However, they were unaware of the reality. Annie resurrected David. He started prioritizing his self-care. He exhibited increased frequency of smiling. He donned vibrant hues. He prepared Thai cuisine with her. They embarked on road vacations, engaged in karaoke, and shared humorous TikToks that achieved viral status. He no longer felt 51. In Annie's presence, he felt youthful, as if he were 25. David once remarked to a friend, "She is not merely my wife. She is my source of rejuvenation." Annie derived solace from David's maturity. He provided her with a sense of security, fidelity, and profound affection, an experience she had not encountered previously. He endorsed her aspirations, facilitated her education, and motivated her to establish a culinary enterprise. Their affection was not flawless, yet it was genuine. During David's health crises, Annie remained at his side continuously. When Annie longed for home, David accumulated funds to return her to Thailand, solely to witness her joy as she embraced her family. One evening, while observing the sunset from their Arizona porch, David turned to Annie and remarked, "You have afforded me a second opportunity, not merely in love, but in life." Annie smiled, rested her head on his shoulder, and murmured, "Love is indifferent to age, only valuing authenticity." At that instant, the world dissipated. There existed no age disparity, no reproach, no history. Only David and Annie, their hearts synchronized, demonstrating that love can indeed rejuvenate one's spirit. Nonetheless, Annie had always been aware that David appreciated a drink following a hard day. Initially, his charisma, intellect, and wit captivated her. He would escort her to dinner, request a bottle of wine, and captivate her with anecdotes from his history. Initially, it was endearing. Indeed, sophisticated. However, over time, alcohol consumption evolved from a mere casual habit into a dominating force in their lives. It commenced modestly. A social gathering with friends transformed into solitary drinking. "It aids my sleep," David would remark with a chuckle, dismissing Annie's apprehensions. She endeavored to be empathetic. After all, David had endured considerable hardships. Divorce, economic difficulties, and the obstacles of adapting to a life with an individual from an entirely distinct culture. However, Annie started to observe the transformation. He would neglect significant matters, such as her immigration application deadlines or family video calls. He returned home with a bottle that was already half depleted. There were evenings when he would slur his speech, succumb to slumber on the couch with the television still illuminated, leaving Annie solitary in the bedroom with her reflections. One evening, upon David's return from what he described as a brief drink with an old acquaintance, Annie ultimately succumbed. "You assured me you would assist in contacting my mother this evening," she stated, arms crossed. David dismissed her, removing his shoes with an audible exhalation. "I shall complete it tomorrow. You consistently exhibit excessive concern." "Negative, David," Annie stated emphatically. "I am concerned because you are not." Her voice trembled, not due to fear, but from repressed frustration. "I arrived in this country for our sake. I did not arrive here to serve as your maid. I did not arrive here to witness your nightly descent into inebriation." David blinked, gradually comprehending the gravity in her tone. He attempted to dismiss it with laughter. "You were aware of my identity at the time of our marriage." "No," Annie responded, her eyes brimming with sorrow. "I believed I had. However, I was unaware that the man I loved would prioritize booze over me." The ensuing hush was overwhelming. The following morning, David awoke solitary. Annie was not in the kitchen preparing breakfast, as was her customary practice. Her suitcase rested beside the door. A message lay on the table. David, I love you, but I require you to value yourself sufficiently to cease drinking. Until you comply, I cannot remain present. Kindly seek assistance. I will await your readiness. The letter served as the awakening that David was previously unaware he required. For the first time in years, he sat with a drink in hand and discarded it down the sink. Nonetheless, it was a sweltering, humid day in Bangkok, and David had already perspired through his second shirt. Annie, however, radiated excitement as she pulled him through the bustling street market in search of the ideal ingredients for her renowned pad thai. David, yet acclimating to life in Thailand, was mostly apprehensive about whether the street food would adversely affect his American stomach. Annie's initial humorous encounter with David occurred when she challenged him to a spicy noodle eating competition at a nearby food booth. Amidst the enthusiastic support of residents, Annie chuckled and adeptly consumed a dish of fiery noodles. Conversely, David took a single bite and instantly flushed crimson. "My tongue is ablaze," he exclaimed, reaching for a coconut beverage. Annie jested, "You claim to enjoy spicy things, darling. Now substantiate it." Later following week, the pair opted to enroll in a traditional Thai dance lesson. David, eager to impress Annie, donned a vibrant pink sarong and attempted to replicate the graceful hand gestures of the instructor. However, his rigid hips and exaggerated facial expressions elicited laughter from the entire class. Annie was unable to cease her laughter. "You resemble a flamingo practicing yoga," she jested, dabbing tears of mirth from her eyes. However, the true disorder ensued at karaoke night at Annie's cousin's establishment. David insisted on performing "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. He ascended the stage with unwavering confidence, only to promptly miss the initial note. The subsequent performance was excruciatingly off-key, characterized by exaggerated hand movements and erroneous lyrics. Annie laughed so intensely that she almost toppled from her stool. Upon David's conclusion with a sincere bow, the audience erupted in a standing ovation, primarily in recognition of his courage. During a night of filming a food video, Annie requested David to chop veggies. It appears straightforward, does it not? Incorrect. David ultimately sliced everything into unconventional shapes, squares, triangles, and one resembling the state of Texas. "What is this, David? A lesson in geography?" Annie chuckled, brandishing a carrot piece resembling a boot. "You are prohibited from entering the kitchen." Notwithstanding the turmoil, awkwardness, and cultural misunderstandings, each amusing incident fostered their closeness. Whether it was David attempting to fit into a cramped tuk-tuk and being ensnared, or Annie instructing him on how to negotiate in Thai, he proposed a higher price instead of a lower one. Their rapport and mirth unequivocally demonstrated that they were a cohesive unit, even if David frequently served as the butt of the joke. Ultimately, they occupied their little apartment balcony, consuming noodles, mild this occasion, and reminiscing about the day's events with laughter. "You are insane," Annie remarked, maintaining her smile. David smiled broadly. "Infatuated with you." Greetings, esteemed viewers. Welcome to my channel. I am Amelia. I hope your day is going well. If you like the video, please remember to subscribe to the channel.